Good morning everyone. Today is Saturday the 9th of May 2020 and today is World Migratory Bird Day, and I'm here on Bardsey Island off the tip of the Llŷn Peninsula in North Wales, and I'm out doing part of the daily census of migratory birds as part of the work of the Bardsey Bird Observatory. Now, this work involves walking around much of the island and recording both migrant and resident birds, the breeding birds that we have here on Bardsey. If I just swing the camera around here, don't know if you can see that, there's a male blackbird just flown away. And then the migrant birds that we've got passing through, a lot of them have come from Africa. They've spent the winter down in Africa and are now heading up into Europe to nest in the summer. I'll just be quiet because there's a male whitethroat singing here. I'm hoping the microphone picked up that song of this male whitethroat. He's sitting and song flighting from the tops of a few twigs up here, and down behind me here there's a few male sedge warblers singing. There's at least 3 sedge warblers singing down here. There's another whitethroat singing over here to the left. So we've got a few migrants coming through today. I've just heard a grey wagtail flying over, and I keep following David Lindo's advice and keep looking up, and yeah, there's a good number of migrants passing through. It's not as good today as it has been over the past few days. The number of migrant birds are slightly fewer today, but still it's very nice being out here. Got a light southerly to southeasterly breeze, and I'm hoping we're going to be able to find something today, something like a subalpine warbler, maybe a black kite or a hoopoo, something from the Mediterranean that's a little bit different. So anyway, we'll continue walking round, see what else we can find, and we'll let you know in a little while. Now, other migrants that I've seen as I've come up the track, I've been hearing 1 or 2 willow warblers singing. I've seen a tree pipit, and then this morning George has been doing the common bird census, the breeding bird census this morning, but he's had some migrant waders. He's had 3 grey plovers this morning. Grey plovers, quite a scarce bird. We're having a good run on grey plovers this year. Now these grey plovers are going to be going up way up into the Arctic to nest, and quite possibly the ones here that we're getting will be going up to Greenland, Iceland, even across into North America, into Baffin Island. I've got a swallow just going past me, 2 swallows going past me now. Now these swallows, if we can see them, these swallows will have spent the winter down in southern Africa, and they've come back to Bardsey to nest. We've had a ringing recovery of swallow that was ringed here on Bardsey, and it was found by someone in South Africa, just outside Johannesburg, and that was an adult swallow when it was ringed, so it's probably already been to South Africa on a number of occasions, at least once, but maybe several times, and come all the way back to Bardsey. I've got 3 greater blackback gulls here that are just going over. See if I can zoom in and show you those. Don't know if I can see them. No, too far away. So last year we started colour ringing the greater blackback gulls that we have nesting over on the Greenland Islands, and we had several of them resighted during this winter, the winter just gone. One of the birds was seen on Skomer in Pembrokeshire, then it was seen on Dale Airfield, then the Gann estuary in Pembrokeshire, and then the same bird was resighted off the Brest Peninsula in northern France. Just see what this is. Got a grey lag goose flying down the west side of the island, just landing on Porthcain. Right, the reason I stopped talking there was there's a dunlin just flown north calling away, and that dunlin could be going to breed up in Orkney or Shetland, or even further afield up in Iceland. So I don't know whether the microphone will have picked that up, but again, just signs of visible migration, birds actually moving during the day. Grey lag goose is quite a scarce bird here on Bardsey, and we maybe get 1-2 records a year, so that bird's been around for a couple of days now. I'm not sure where it's just come from, but it's just flown down and landed on Porthcain. But yeah, it's the wonders of bird migration are just never ending, and the fact that birds that have struggled in the past can bounce back. The whitethroat that I was listening to earlier, the whitethroat population on Bardsey at the moment, it fluctuates quite a lot. Some years there are none, and other years there are a few pairs. And just before there was one singing up on the hill. I've had a couple more since. Whether these are birds that are going to be staying on Bardsey or just passing through, I don't know yet. It's still too early to tell, but hopefully some will stay and breed. Now, in the 1960s, the whitethroat population, not only here on Bardsey but everywhere else, crashed, and it was the year after the Bardsey population peaked at 35 pairs, and the whitethroats just simply didn't return in the spring of 1964. And it's a bit before my time, but there's some people who'll be watching this video who'll be able to remember the whitethroat crash. And what happened, there was a drought in the Sahel region of Africa, and all the whitethroats just perished. There was no food for them, no water, and yeah, they didn't come back. It took quite a few years for the population to sort of start to get strong again, and another drought a few years later could have really done some proper serious damage to the population. But they did recover. I still don't think they're up to the pre-crash numbers. They certainly aren't here on Bardsey. I think we've only been up to about 9 or 10 pairs as opposed to 30 pairs since. But I don't know what the sort of numbers of whitethroats used to be around the UK before the crash and what they are now. But there do seem to be plenty of whitethroats around. But anyway, these whitethroats got a wonderful little song, and I hope the camera did pick it up earlier and you're able to listen to it. And the whitethroat's a lovely, lovely little bird, spending much of their winter down in Africa, and for something that weighs 13 or 14 grams, travelling all the way down there, crossing the Sahara, and you can imagine a swallow sort of crossing the Sahara with a reasonable amount of ease, but a little land bird having to cross the Sahara, they do it in little hops, going from any little bit of bushy area they can find, sometimes in one big jump. But it's amazing, these migrant birds flying all this sort of distance. It is sort of mind-blowing. So right, we'll carry on and see what else we can find. Right, so we've come down to the south end of the island now. It's late afternoon, maybe about 4:30, 5 o'clock, something like that, and it's still a very, very nice day here on Bardsey. So what birds have we seen since this morning? After I did the last little video clip, I went and sat up on the hill above the plantation, and there were blackcaps, garden warblers, whitethroats, all singing around the well at the north end. And then went down through the withies and met up with George, and we had a tufted duck, a male tufted duck, came, circled around Puthkine and the lowlands, and then it flew off heading south. I've got a whimbrel and an oyster catcher just passing behind me here. That whimbrel is another migrant bird, so that will have spent the winter down in West Africa probably, and is on its way back to Iceland to nest. So then after we'd seen the tufted duck, we came through the withies, we ringed a brood of meadowpipits in the wetlands, and went to Solvach, where we had a few dunlin, a few ring plover and a sanderling. Now the sanderling that we get on Bardsey at this time of year are undergoing a pretty tremendous migration. We had one sanderling that was colour ringed, and we'd seen it on Solvach. This was a couple of years ago, and it had been ringed the previous summer on Ellesmere Island in Canada. Now Ellesmere Island is the last bit of, or basically the most northerly landmass on Earth until you actually you get beyond Ellesmere Island and you're into pack ice, Arctic pack ice. So this little sanderling, which weighs about 35 to 40 grams, has crossed the Atlantic at least twice, and it's just tremendous to think something that size is going, quite possibly spending the winter on the West African coastline, and then going all the way across the Atlantic via Bardsey back to northern Canada. So yeah, it's been a pretty eventful day. Nothing extremely rare. Tufted duck is probably the rarest thing we've had. We have had yellow wagtail, and Sam's had black-headed gull, which is a little bit unusual for this time of year, but nothing outrageous, nothing out of the ordinary. Yesterday on Skirkham, Rich Brown, who was the assistant here a few years ago, him and Giselle caught a subalpine warbler, and today on Skirma in Pembrokeshire, next island along from Skirkham, there was an icterine warbler, And over on the mainland, don't know if you can see the mainland somewhere over there. We can probably actually see the headland at Rue, where Ben Porter now lives, or is in lockdown with his mum and dad and sister Rachel. He got a message today from Phil Bellman, who lives just up the road, to say that there was a flock of 13 bee eaters. So Ben took his hours daily exercise and cycled over there, and as he was cycling he came across the flock of 13 bee eaters. So yeah, there's things on the move. We just need to find something here on Bardsey. Right, and we'll carry on walking around the south end, see what else we can find, and maybe do a bit more filming and let you know later. So we're just leaving the south end now, just walking through the gorse, and we've got a pair of Stonechats here in front of us. There's a few swallows still moving, generally heading in a southerly direction, which suggests these are birds that are going to be crossing the Irish Sea tonight and ending up over in Southern Ireland. We've got a few noisy oyster catchers around us, a few wrens, and I'll see if I can get some film of a few of the bits and pieces in the gorse here that I'm seeing for you. I don't know how well it will work, but I'll show you this oyster catcher if I can. There's the Stonechats flicking around over there. So while we were sat at the very southern tip of the island, we saw some more migrant birds, and these particular migrant birds are the commonest breeding bird we have here on Bardsey. We've got somewhere in the region of 25,000 pairs of them, and I'll just show you the nest site of one here. There you go, and there's another one, and in the bottom of the gorse there is another one, and you've guessed what I'm talking about here. It's the Mang Shearwater. Now Manxes come back to Bardsey after their northward migration, and they get here pretty much about the same time every year, usually about the 15th of March. They're the first ones to return. Usually depends when the new moon is in March, but you can pretty much guarantee it's around the middle of March. Now, by the new moon in April, we've got tens of thousands of them coming ashore every night. They spend most of their day out at sea. They only come ashore at night to breed, and they lay a single white egg underground. And again, I'll do a complete video about Mang Shearwaters later in the year. But we've just had quite a few passing the south end of the island, and we can't talk about World Migratory Bird Day without talking about Mang Shearwaters. And the sort of migration that they do is pretty amazing. So leaving Bardsey in September, October each year, and heading all the way down to spend the winter off the coast of South America is pretty phenomenal. And the speed that some of these birds do it is amazing. The quickest recovery we've had of a bird that was ringed here on the island, and then it was found dead in Argentina 17 days later. I think it was something like 14,500 kilometres, and it did that in 17 days, which is pretty outstanding really. And then oh dear, sorry, attacked by an oyster catcher. I must be really close to its nest. It's okay, little oyster catcher, I'm not after your eggs. I think I'll get out of here pretty quickly. So the other migrant, which has a pretty amazing migratory story that we've seen quite a few of today, is the wheatear. Now wheatears have got the longest migration of all land birds on Earth. Now some of the Greenland wheatears that we've been getting over the past week, just quickly show you the island, it's looking brilliant again. But yeah, some of the Greenland wheatears we've been getting over the past week or two are coming up, having spent the winter in Africa, and they're now passing through Bardsey, and we got there Meadow pipit carrying food. They've the wheatears are passing through Bardsey and heading north to their breeding grounds. Some of them will nest here on the island, others are carrying on, going up to Greenland and Iceland. And these birds that go up to Greenland and Iceland are much bigger, longer winged and brighter than our breeding birds. So these Greenland birds are they're obviously longer winged, they've got a longer migration to make. Now some of the Greenland birds spend the winter down in Africa, the Greenland Race, which is Ananthe leucaroa. And it's this particular race of wheatear that has got this really long migration. Not only do they come up the west side of Europe and then basically get up to Scotland and then fly across the Atlantic to Greenland and Iceland, some of them actually nest in Alaska, but they don't come up the west side of Europe and go over Greenland, Iceland, Canada to Alaska. Some of them actually come out of Africa, cross Asia, go basically up through China and cross the Bering Straits, cross the Pribilof Islands and nest in Alaska. And it's those that have got the longest migration of any known land bird. And it's pretty phenomenal for a bird that weighs about 40 grams, that can winter in Central Africa, yet go all the way to Alaska to breed. So why they do it, no one actually knows. They could stop on the way and nest elsewhere. There's other species of wheatear that nest in northern Africa and in the Middle East, but these birds decide to pass them by and go on all the way to Alaska. And it's just absolutely amazing that the lengths that these migratory birds go to go and fledge 4 or 5 young every year. So yeah, we've got more oyster catchers here that are probably going to come and make a lot of noise at me. And there's George this way. But it's been another absolutely beautiful day on the island. Been quite a few aircraft going over today. We're seeing at least 8, which is more than we have been seeing over the past few weeks. So we're going to head back. There's 2 sand martins just going past, heading south. Again, these birds are almost certainly going to get to the southern tip of the island, swing out and go across to Southern Island. But yeah, we're going to head back to the observatory and have some food, and then we'll try and get these video clips pieced together and uploaded onto YouTube this evening. So as ever, we hope everyone on the mainland is fit and well. You're keeping away from the virus, keeping your distance from other people. So Wimbrel just come off the track here in front of me. It's just landed, but just beside the track. So on that, I will say good night and stay well, everyone. Bye.